an interview with our friends from Crackerjack Games, developers of UnderEarth, and also welcome to this new overlay. Thank you, Rick, wherever you may be, for designing this. And, of course, check out the website and Twitter over there. Again, we got Joseph in the middle, Kerrigan on the right, and Maris on the left. We've got some questions for you, and they will hopefully answer them, as is par for interviews. Now, first thing is, in your own words, I don't know who wants to take the lead on this, but in your own words, what is UnderEarth? What explain to people what the features are and what exactly is your vision for the game.
Ladies.
Joseph.
Well, this was Joseph's baby. I think he's the best.
I'm curious to hear one of you two explain it.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors.
UnderEarth, in some ways, it might be considered a survival horror genre. There's nothing hunting you per se, but the environment is your antagonist. Mm. Things have clearly gone wrong in this facility. The atmosphere is very dark and moody, thematic. You're trying to figure out what happened, resolve things if you can, and I can't really say more than that on the plot without going into spoiler territory. But in gameplay style, it's an exploration puzzle game. I would compare it somewhat to Myst or Riven in that aspect.
I was going to say, actually, that when I was playing it today, because you sent us, graciously sent us a playable build of the game, that it's very environmental in the way that you solve the puzzles. Like, you don't, there's nothing saying, hey, go here, go here. You just kind of have to look around and figure it out.
Which would sort of be the situation that really your character would be in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you played Mr. Riven when it came out, that's exactly how it was. Like, you looked around and figured it out, and it's a nice. It feels like a nice throwback to that, but it obviously newer graphics, different angle on things. I mean, it's nice though. It's nice to see that in a game where you have to work.
There's
you're not getting things.
Guidance.
You're not getting.
There are a number of computer consoles that can give feedback on particular systems, but even then, some of the consoles are broken and need to be repaired before you can get proper information or control restored to those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's essentially puzzle-driven as far as either figuring out what needs to be repaired, how to carry out those repairs, and the manner of the puzzles varies. Sometimes you're just trying to patch things back together. Sometimes it's a logic system that you're trying to figure out the proper patterns. We tried to keep each puzzle unique to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's also I do want to point out that the design that you guys took, because it is a very it really throws you in there and it doesn't hold your hand. And once the ball sort of gets rolling, like I remember I was playing and I slipped off of a platform and I fell, and an alarm went off and I got up and I'm like, okay, I can't move very fast. Oh yeah, there was a med bay that I saw. Let's try that. And then I walk into this thing that I can walk into and I'm like, oh yeah, it's healing me. Perfect. That's exactly what I expected it to do. And like you can use your brain, and it makes you feel really good as a player that you're able to go, oh yeah.
It can be very jarring initially, we found in playtesting, because people have become very used to games holding their hand. Even games I like very much tend to have quest markers and maps that you don't really have to hunt where to go. It just tells you.
And that's honestly,
we've pulled all of that.
I will agree with that. As we were talking kind of before the show, I don't have the most experience in game. I've only had about 30 minutes in it, but and there's some other variables that go into that. But like one of the things that I do appreciate is that it doesn't hold your hand, or at least more so on mine. But it is. I don't know. It's an interesting juxtaposition. I almost feel that design choice reinforces the helplessness of me as the character because of the lack of knowledge of me as the player. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
You're getting it.
I'm actually
That's
trying
the
to.
thing. This is a facility you are not intended to have familiarity with. Your suit does have onboard scanner systems, so once you've linked up to the local computers, you can get feedback from certain objects in the environment, but it only really tells you what those things are. It doesn't tell you what to do with them.
Right.
Your goal here is to figure things out and get things back to functioning if you can.
Another thing that I really liked was the console system. I'm gonna call it. What is that? What you guys call it?
Yes, we call it the
computer
console.
Okay, cool. That's okay. When I first saw that, I was a little scared. I was like, uh-oh, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna forget everything about this. But you guys really laid it out like great. Like it worked so well, and as soon and you know I died like 2 or 3 times in that first room.
So I've actually got some live gameplay going on right now. So I apologize
you're playing this right now
for the noise, because they sent that and they were interested in us playing it on the show. Do you?
So this is actually a first.
Yeah, we don't usually do live.
Josh, let
gameplay.
me. Were you able to get out of this room?
Well, hold on. Is there
okay.
Is there a menu option to turn down volume yet?
Your mixer on.
Yeah, so
I can't
Alt
do that
tab,
because that's
stream.
the stream. So
crap.
hopefully it's not too loud for you guys, but
I can't hear it actually.
Yeah, I
I
can't
think
hear it.
if you have the sound going into your headphones,
hear
that shouldn't be carrying across to anything else.
okay. I mean, it should be
All right,
going
well-
through the stream, but hey, if you can't hear it, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't.
Well,
I can't
I'm
hear the
wearing
game, but it's
headphones
not-
because I have music playing.
Oh yeah. So walk up to that console, and just hit exit. Just type exit once you walk up to it.
Type
You
exit.
have to activate it though.
Yeah, hit E up to it.
Yeah.
So okay. No. Oh, the console, not the computer. Gotcha. That makes
Yeah.
more sense now. Okay. So
Great. Now go back in.
While we're doing this, would you guys be interested in a tiny little bit of feedback on the console commands?
None at all.
I'll talk about the console commands.
All right.
So Josh, just type capital D lowercase IR.
That's actually what my feedback was going to be on this, because I did it not knowing that this was the console you guys were talking about. I did go into this and was kind of playing around with it. Case sensitivity weirds me out because it's almost based. It feels like it's based on a Linux system, but the case sensitivity, again, not a thing. I can deal with that as a player. But it was kind of a shock that it would, to me at least, that the mechanic would require that. So
It's kind of easier because, in a sense, when you're looking at it from the perspective of a player, now obviously you have a little more experience than the average player per se. So when going in as a casual player, they're automatically going to think to type the whether it be directory or status or whatever, since it's being displayed with a capital, they're going to type it with a capital.
that makes sense.
If you don't have the ability for it to pick up the capitals and you just sit there and type it all in lowercase, it's not going to work. And that was kind of the conclusion we came to, because a lot of people are, in fact, going to type it with the capitals because that's the way they're seeing it displayed. There's nothing telling them that they can't, but you're going to innately do
you
it.
Can't is if you type it in a non-case sensitive manner, you will get an error message.
Yeah,
Right.
And Rick, that answers the question in chat. He asked, "Would it accept lowercase? If the command is lowercase, then yes, but by default, it is case sensitive based on the command structure of the game."
And we've tried to keep things consistent between consoles. So yeses and nos are always capitalized. A lot of our console system will either, through typing dir for your directory, will give a list of viable commands. Outside of that, we tend to lean towards simple yes and no responses to control outputs.
Now, I had a question. What was I'm now seeing, further in the build than I did in my play session. What was your guys' inspiration behind this game? I mean, obviously, we kind of talked about Riven and Mist as kind of the perspective aspect of it, but
Hit it again, Josh. Hit it again.
What kind of,
Just don't fall.
Just so you know,
This
your
one we
your
have to
advice
pull
is like
Joseph in.
great.
I know.
We have to pull Joseph in to answer this one. Maris and I are actually fairly new to the project comparatively.
Okay, so Joseph, what kind of systems, and by systems I mean art, projects and things of that nature inspired you for this game?
Well, we have a hive similar to like in the movie Resident Evil, which wasn't like a real great video game movie or anything, but I like the idea of having like a large structure that's like buried underground. So if any shit goes wrong down there, you're just kind of screwed. It's not like you can, drive somewhere real quick or get out or have any. The only recourse is to try to like figure out what you're doing, and, fix it.
Oh my God, Josh, I can't handle it. It's okay. It's the valve by the door on the other side, next to the door. There's a valve by the red door towards towards the door that's open. No, it's a valve. It's a big. You just turned one. It's another one.
Oh, I see it.
It's not his fault. He's not using the flashlight.
I'm bad at
Yeah,
games.
no,
I'm
not-
sorry.
No, not that one.
No, I think it's because
One
you
right
got
there.
the first room, and there's like a there's a poster in the first room that explains the controls.
Yeah, I saw that actually, and that was really cool too. And that's what kind of gave me like the confirmation that it was just like very heavily Rift inspired, or not Rift. What the hell am I talking about? Mist is what I'm trying to
Mist,
say.
yeah.
And you mentioned about the way, like the feel of everything, and it's really interesting how you made it so dark and like oppressive, yet at the same time colorful and grand on scale.
Now, one aspect that has come back to bite some of our playtesters, the initial similarity in style to Myst does lead one to realize that you need to take your time and experiment with things, figure out how things work. At the same time, on top of that, though, you have your concerns of running out of oxygen and losing power to your suit. Now, in some areas, losing suit power isn't that big a deal, but in others where the temperature seals have failed, you're going to get cooked if your suit's thermal seals aren't active.
Crap! I just realized.
But Josh, you're about to run out of oxygen and energy.
You just reminded me that I was supposed to do that. I got
The door that you just came in has an oxygen thing, and then if you go up the stairs, there's a little circular thing on the wall that refills your energy. See, I've done this. I've
There
done my
should
homework.
be a tie-in. At least I assume if you have the latest build, the heads-up display has oxygen and energy sigils next to their relative meters.
Yes.
Those tie in with the refill stations in the world.
There we go.
Okay, so now obviously being the explorative nature, and I oh, that's the power stuff. That makes so much more sense. I spent like 20 minutes clicking on that trying to figure out what it did. Like I'm holding up bottles and stuff. Anyway, okay, so I'm a tard. Now, I did want to compliment you guys on this. Even in that first room, the atmosphere so ridiculously oppressive that I found myself kind of starting to get irritated not at the game, but like emotionally irritated by it. And I was curious how much. Like obviously we're trying to reinforce that you're alone and you're trying to find out what's going on.
It's not a happy game.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a happy game.
Okay.
No, flowers and sunshine and all that stuff.
What actual is this? Is this still pre-alpha or or is it alpha beta? What is it?
Somewhere in between like beta and current build.
Okay, so what are there features right now that we're not seeing that you want to since it's not still not fully developed? Is there anything that people aren't seeing that you want people to know that will be there or that will be changed or anything like that?
A lot of the current work in progress has to do with final bug fixing in the upper facility and fine-tuning of the last few puzzles at the very end of the game.
Okay.
I'm not sure if all of the demos include the second half of the game.
No, but this one that they have, I mean, it depends on. It depends. I think that this is basically like, I don't know, from a little while ago, so like around the time when we was in Phoenix, so it has the lower blocks attached. Wait, that one didn't, did it?
What was that?
Oh, we're coming up on... This is one of Kerrigan's pieces right there, that microscope on the...
I can't actually see what you're seeing. Oh, there we are.
Are you on Hitbox?
I'd been looking at Skype, not the web page, and now I'm on the web page.
That microscope is something that Kerrigan designed and put in, and you can actually there should be slides that you can put in there and see.
And thank goodness the materials on the slides stayed functioning. Those kept disappearing on us for a while.
Now, a quick question for you. You guys were successfully greenlit. How long did it take you guys to reach greenlight?
2 weeks.
About 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That well done indeed. And
we were shocked. I mean, our numbers, I was checking every day, and there's no rhyme or reason. We didn't have the numbers for it compared to like some of the other articles and stuff that was getting posted on like the indie developers group on Facebook or anything. People would post like when they got greenlit, and here's what my stats look like at the end. So I don't know how that happened.
But it happened, and here it is. And it's going to be great.
Right?
And you can also see it on IRX.
Yeah, we will be. So, again, you guys are a very small team. My understanding, there's only 4 of you on this?
There's 5. We have both Josephs. They both do programming, development, things like that. We have Kerrigan, who's with us, level designing, programming, and then we have 2 artists. That's John and Allison. So that's the team that has built this. What you're seeing.
And how long have you guys been in development?
When we started, it was a 18-month development cycle. So it's been 3 years.
I came on board. It was late last summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So now...
So they've had a few other level designers and modelers before I came on board.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just focused on watching him play the game because it's really so cool.
I think the color scheme is amazing in this game because it's not what you expect. Like you think when you're going into an underground facility, it's going to be dark, dank, drippy, rusty, and then you turn your flashlight on, and it's like vibrant, and it's real stylized. It's got like a nice like sci-fi, more modern or futuristic take on things, but the color palette just makes it really stand out well.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to have to tweak one of the heads-up display elements. Your electrical indicator should have started flashing when you got down to low power.
Uh-oh. She's going to be like, all right, let me do that right now.
Just taking notes down there.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, this build has this problem.
I was going to say, like, as of right now, the only, gripes, I guess you could call them, I have with the game are, like, very minor things that probably are, like, super easy tweaks.
You would think.
Yeah, well, I would think.
Yeah.
So,
not knowing anything about programming.
So yeah, and this is so like when you start to move, for instance, it does that weird like jerk motion. But that's like it's like that kind of stuff that I could really say. There were a couple times
that might be to do with our head bob.
It is. We're fine-tuning that to try to find a good married area between the Oculus version and the...
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're doing VR, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Why did...
Honestly, that was a great day when I finally got to see it through the Oculus for the first time. That it was just.
Oh man, is that?
Yeah, we just had the Oculus launch party at the University of Advancing Technology in Arizona back on May 19th. So they had some Oculuses out there. They were doing play testing of the Oculus version.
Yeah,
it's pretty fancy.
One thing, the only real visual difference aside from it being VR, the heads-up display looks totally different in the Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
Here, the heads-up display is all in the periphery, and that is not something that's clearly visible on an Oculus version. You can't properly focus on the periphery of your screen. So we've actually built more of a Tony Stark-ish holographic HUD.
Well, that's
for the
really cool,
Oculus.
though. That's what I would expect.
Like what Josh was saying, like there were only like a few things that were really like, for me personally, the mouse sensitivity was a little crazy. But like, you know, I can just lower the DPI on my mouse, and there you go. I'm glad that you don't have noticeable mouse acceleration, which I'm really happy about. Because there are a lot of games that I've played, and I can't stand mouse acceleration at all. And you
mean when it overrides?
I like when my mouse just
yeah.
moves the speed. I have my mouse set.
Yeah,
to
exactly. And like I've literally, like, there have been games that we've gotten codes for where I've played for like, you know, like 10, 15 minutes, and I have to put them down, and I'll feel sick the rest of the day. And I usually don't get motion sickness, or maybe I do, and that's a sign of it. But it's really a lot of fun. You've created a world with enough detail to where if you start looking at things too closely, all of a sudden you're dead.
You know, that is something I haven't actually played enough of the Oculus version to know for sure whether motion sickness would be a concern in the VR environment. I know I do get motion sick on certain rides.
I tested a lot of different games, and the whole reason that the camera's still a bit jerky as far, because the like the first breaker box and the hub, you have to sometimes look around a bit to get to the switch. In the newest map, that's actually raised up, but I would try to push forward a little bit, and the whole camera jerks forward a bunch. So it's we did a lot of those adjustments to decrease the amount of like motion sickness. Games, all the games I played on the Oculus so far, the biggest problem is when you turn. Like, you can look up and down all you want and look all around while you're like at a fixed position, but once you start strafing and turning, it's like your eyes and your equilibrium don't get along, so you start to feel like a headache maybe, or a little bit sick. But I played lots of games that you're stuck in a single position and that doesn't happen. So we tried to sort of detach the camera from the player a bit to where it's sort of closer to like arcadey controls than anything else as far as the way your character moves around. But the camera is more like sort of in a third person camera, even though it is represented as first person.
Now, right here, your battery is about to die in a area with the temperature pretty high right now.
You'll die.
So this is where our power indicator really needs to be blinking to draw attention to that.
Yeah.
In some of our initial playtesting, we had people dying without always knowing why, because there wasn't full attention on the indicators.
And
I'm a little bit disappointed that he hasn't died until now.
I actually just died, so
yeah, there it is.
Bam.
Well,
so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that.
I guess my next question: what would you say has been the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome in order to reach this point?
Probably the art style, and then finding the right people. It was really hard to get. Both of our artists are super talented and great 3D modelers, but coming from like modern games, everything is really gray and brown.
Right.
It's going more towards photorealism, which is cool and all, but it also leaves you with a color palette that, you know, makes the first Super Mario Brothers look like the most colorful thing in the world. And I really miss colors like that from like the 16-bit era. it was like they just discovered some colors, so everything's going to be super saturated with this shade of purple or secret of mana green or whatever. Everything was saturated and colored. You know, they didn't use a lot of blacks or grays because either it was boring in a 2D game. I mean, you really need things to pop. So the preliminary models put together for this game just had to keep getting sent back over and over again. Like, add more purple, add more orange, make the colors more saturated. Eventually we got a material network set up that we could sort of stray off of the path of just making everything bright and sort of almost flat colors to make them brighter that way by having this sort of oil slick looking thing on everything, which brings out the colors more and makes it seem more reflective, or in some cases a bit too reflective. But that ties everything nicely together and sort of gave the modelers a bit of leeway as far as like certain areas that they just felt really should have been like duller or desaturated. And then we had a lot of people work on this game over the years, and some of them stayed, like Allison. Others just were sort of here for a contract, and then once it was up, they left, which is fine. I mean, that was the whole point of it. Kerrigan was a special case. We was trying to do like try to get people to get in touch with us so we could get them a contract and like start them with a position as far as level designing goes, which isn't just like putting models in a place or whatever. The kind of level designer we need is somebody that can do scripting and level designing, object-oriented programming, and putting props in places. But we did that whole campus rush during the summer session, which none of us thought about until after the fact. We had wasted all these emails. And Kerrigan didn't even have anything to do with that campus like blanket thing that we was doing. It was something else. She probably knows more than I do, but
I know the director from my college got an email from Carol.
That's right.
And he actually forwarded it directly to me, and that worked out.
Yeah.
Now,
At least that's how it went from my perspective.
Now, speaking of college, Kerrigan, you said before we were recording, you teach the Unity engine at college.
Unreal Engine 4. I teach the blueprint scripting. At the time, last summer when they hired me on here, I was actually still just a student getting my certificate in video game design from the Mindfire at Bethany campus here in Wichita. I'm in Kansas, by the way. But I'd just taken their scripting class the prior spring, I think. And then that teacher got a better job offer, and so
so they needed somebody to teach.
In need, and so I was the last student he'd had, and they'd approached me and discussed, and it's been working out really well.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, that's
great.
one way to get hired out of school. So before we move on, we have one question that we like to ask all of our guests every time we interview them. It's more of a generalized question. So whether it be as a dev or a fan of certain indie games, just any in general, what has been your most like the best experience within the indie game community on any side of the ball? All three of you can answer the question.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I'm sure it'll harmonize very well. You got to sing it, actually.
Oh, you don't want me singing. Stop the broadcast now, because if I start singing, it's over. You'll never hear again.
Being on the Indie Game Riot broadcast. That I think
Oh,
There you go.
If
Way
you
to
never
brown
got
nose.
that answer before, really.
Actually, we have. And I think it was legitimate. We've been told it was the best interview on a
Podcast
podcast
experience.
that they've ever had, and it makes us feel very well. Even if you are brown nosing, it's okay. Proceed to inflate our egos.
Yeah.
I'll bottle mine. How about you, Paris? What would you say your favorite or best experience within the indie game community would be?
Besides working with UnderEarth, I also do broadcasting, and I do have to say, and with UnderEarth, like working with the developers and being able to either do developer interviews or like pick their brains or that inside working stuff. It's like I think it's awesome. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I get to sit in developer conference calls every week for UnderEarth, and it's like I just love it. I think it's great. Indie games are really where the ingenuity in the gaming industry is now. It's like the AAA games, they sometimes come out with some new stuff, but I mean, indie games are still really where it's at.
Right.
Yeah, you're right about that. Actually, AAA seems to, a lot of times, because it's kind of rightfully so because they have a lot of money invested, but they're afraid to innovate because they're afraid it will fail. Whereas indie devs don't have a whole lot to lose in the first place because they're not millionaires generally speaking until after they made a hit. So it's really cool within the indie game community that we can get some really unique and fantastic experiences.
I mean, and it kind of keeps you coming back to the indie scene. And then once you get to talk with the developers or deal with devs or, stuff like that, you realize that the majority of them are super nice and they're just a great group of people and they have this huge community and it's just a really, really awesome thing.
Super supportive.
And I get to work for UnderEarth. So that's my super awesomeness in the indie world.
Oh yeah.
And Kerrigan, how about you?
I'm not sure. This is working with UnderEarth has essentially been my first foray into indie games. I mean, I've played honestly a relatively small selection of video games compared to most of these others, but it's been fabulous, and I look forward to sticking around.
Yeah, great introduction.
Awesome.
Are you guys
games?
out of curiosity? Are you hitting any of the game conventions, Indiecade or anything like that?
Paris has been to Indiecade.
I did Indiecade East, and then we had that release party in May. As of right now, I don't think we have any other large conventions lined up. We're just watching everything because we do have the release date coming up very soon.
Can we talk about that, by the way? Can we say when it's releasing, or is that still?
Well, it has been sent out to media outlets, so you can talk about it. There is no NDA on that.
June 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Come to your
13
faces,
days.
June 23rd.
Yes.
13 days.
So by the time IRX rolls around, it will be.
You'll be able to go out and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it scary. 13 days.
13 days.
I think I've only been sleeping a couple of times.
Okay, so lastly, before we sign off for the interview, is there anything that you want people to know about that we haven't discussed or said during the interview?
One thing, maybe it's common with indie development teams. Kind of cool. Our meeting in Phoenix at UAT, that was actually the first time I ever met my coworkers in person. We're scattered across the country.
Just us, we know the same
segment. Yeah.
we had the same experience. All right. Well, thank you so much for answering our questions and sticking around. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Wait.
I just want to also, we also put out the Valvorta.com website at this point, which is the corporation that owns the Hive and everything like that. So everybody can go check that out if they want to see more.
Ooh, is that metagame?
About,
Is that going to be metagame?
No, maybe.
You should totally, if it's not, you should totally turn it into like a metagame.
Hashtag maybe.
Yeah.
Hashtag maybe. But
We'll talk about it.
That's Valvorta's corporate site, so you can get some fabulous information. But it's also got links back to the Cracker Jack game, the Steam page, things like that. But There's a lot of Valvorta stuff on there.
Nice. I like that.
I'm digging through it right now.
And it's a link in the chat too. So.
Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Yeah.
It's been really cool, and it's you guys have brought new things to the show with the live gameplay and the bunch of people and this new overlay and all that sort of stuff. So thank you for that as well.
Thanks for having
it's
us.
been interesting, and you guys are sticking around for the rest of the show, I believe. And
Yes.
awesome. So we'll talk about the other indie games and move on to
Starting the Riot.
starting the Riot.